We're in the middle of a housing emergency. I think all of you can appreciate that. We have more people being evicted across our city, and we have people sleeping in our parks. It is not time to be timid. It is not time to shy away from a bold approach to housing. It's time to treat this like an emergency. It's time for us to make it a little uncomfortable for those who have profited from the current system that has actually helped to perpetuate and fuel this problem. Indeed, if they don't feel uncomfortable, we're not doing enough. Developers are going to say absolutely anything. Let me say that again. They're going to say anything to get the city away from their profits. Now, I'm not blaming them. We've actually helped develop this system and create profits that the banks now depend on. We contributed to that. It's time for us to stop enabling them and to break their addiction to their profits and their pushback against affordable housing. Now, inclusionary zoning has been discussed for many years as a significant potential to help alleviate some of the strains on our housing crisis. It's not a silver bullet by any means. Governments will still need to bring deeper affordability to those who need it, and the market will still need to contribute to growth in the availability of market housing. But this policy looks to build out an important segment of the housing spectrum in the communities with the hottest real estate markets and soaring rents and costs. It's time we reshape the market so as to ensure that we are building mixed income communities in our city. And while I'd like to thank staff for this report, and especially Deputy Mayor Bailau for her hard work on it, and I appreciate you're being pulled in many different directions by politicians, by developers, by activists. I believe the current proposal sets the targets too low and ramps up the affordability requirements too slowly. In fact, I don't believe it's supported by the data from our international colleagues who actually, while they may have started with a voluntary approach, their required approach ramped up quite a bit faster than the 8 years. The city's requirement wouldn't reach the proposed low levels of units until the end of the decade, 2030. That is too late. The proposal only required developers to include around half the amount of affordable housing that the earlier studies showed was feasible and still delivered a 15% profit margin for developers. Inclusionary zoning has huge potential to help address the city's housing crisis. It's our responsibility as a government to be brave and use inclusionary zoning to its full potential. It's time we started standing up against huge profits for the few developers and investing in housing for the many. While there was a second test and analysis put forward, that test did not change the findings that there was feasibility with the policy when fully implemented. It's being characterized by our current consultants as a conservative approach, this second test. It's not time for a conservative approach during a crisis. What we need is bolder action. And what I'm proposing by way of a motion through Councillor Perks is higher affordability requirements, or the higher affordability requirements that were outlined with the first test and achieved faster. There's no reason to delay it. We have been sending market signals since before 2010, but most recently starting in 2017. There has been lots of time to adjust. You'll see in the motion as it's proposed, I asked staff to outline what is the most aggressive push forward we could make to implement, but still achieve the requirements of the first test. It's come up in some of the questions that particularly that Councillor Perks asked, that the second test involves the windfall received by property owners, and the role that the change is happening because actually of property speculators that were expecting to make a certain amount of money and bought those properties in recent years. Well, you know what? I don't believe it's our job to ensure that those speculators' gambles pay off.